Thank you, everyone. So welcome to my presentation, and I'm going to be talking about understanding the power of soft skills, and I'd like to extend a thank you to my advisor, Professor Mandalisi. So first I want to talk about a seemingly simple question that actually has more layers than you think to it, and that is, what makes a good leader? So these could be hard skills that make a good leader, soft skills, and I wanted to dive into what really makes a good leader, and can this be quantified? Soft skills are something that are generally harder to be quantified, and that's what I wanted to focus on in my presentation. So for my study, I had some personal motivations that kind of drove the way that I did this. And the first thing is that in my own undergraduate curriculum, there was 2 required classes out of about 20 that focused on truly understanding and also building interpersonal skills that are really important to the professional world. And on top of that, because we have this increasing digitization within different firms, there's been a greater emphasis on learning technical skills, such as coding, Excel, et cetera, while developing these interpersonal skills has tended to be more overlooked as we've gotten further into the 21st century. So the point of my project is not to say that technical skills are not useful and bad, but more so thinking about, can we use qualitative and quantitative data to reshape our understanding of other skills, such as interpersonal or soft skills? So I'm using the word soft skills, but let's talk about what they are. And before I get into using that word, I want to touch on a point that the term soft skills, which is what it's been called historically in literature, is inherently derogatory to the term because it's kind of putting it down and saying that hard skills are better or not. So I'm going to use soft skills just because that's what is in the literature, but I mean other terms that we could use are interpersonal skills or other types of professional skills. So in short, it's just personal attributes that allow you to interact effectively with other people, and that could be adaptability, flexibility, empathy, communication. And the 2 things I focused on, I call them buckets of skills, which are emotional intelligence and situational leadership, because they're really upheld by kind of sub-skills within that. But they're good ways to start thinking about these ideas. So for my project, I conducted a meta-analysis of existing literature to understand the impact of these skills, especially those 2 that I bolded at the bottom. So before I want to go into some just general context and contextual research that I did. So this goes back all the way to 1918 from the Carnegie Foundation, where they did a study of 30,000 young engineers. And they wanted to see what are the determining factors of success and failure and hiring and promotion for these engineers. So out of these 30,000 engineers, out of the surveys, they found that personal qualities were mentioned 7 times more than engineering knowledge and technical practice, as well as when asked to rank different groups of qualities, the character group was ranked at the top by 94% of those 30,000 engineers, whereas technique was ranked last by over 50%. And if you go back almost 100 years later to Project Oxygen, which is a multi-year internal study and analysis in which they had over 100 variables that Google did internally to figure out what do they want as a manager. I mean, back in 2004, Google had taken out managers, saying that we need to just focus on the most technically competent people, focusing on the most kind of what they call googly people. And what they found with this study is that out of 8 behaviors, coaching, communication, and sociocultural awareness ranked as the top 3 factors that made their most top-performing managers, whereas the technical skills ranked last. And again, I'm not saying that technical skills don't matter, because you need to have an absolute foundational baseline of technical skills, especially in engineering firms, as well as also technology firms. But when you're talking about leading groups of people and managing people, there are other skills that also matter just as crucially. So another bit of contextual research that I did was this really cool study done by Harvard, where they had over 5,000 job descriptions for executive roles. And a lot of these roles aren't public. And they found that over the past 20 years, the descriptions that have social skills in them is increasing almost exponentially, whereas talking about financial and material resources and the managing of that has been going down. So we have this old model where there's the development programs that wanted to cultivate this competence for these operational roles, and soft skills were seen as a bonus skill set. But now we have managers and CEO level people who are really involved in more of a social space. They have a front face on them to many different types of people, whether it's the press, whether it's to other stakeholders, and even just on social media. And they have to interact with many more groups of people that they didn't have to historically before. So now I want to go right into the first part of my research project, which is understanding situational leadership. So if you don't know what that is, it's just it's a tangible framework for understanding kind of this ideal form of leadership, which is that leadership is really based on the readiness of your followers as well as the situation at hand. And it seems obvious when you think about it like that, but this is a really foundational piece of work that has helped develop the organizational behavior field as well as the field of leadership. And basically it categorizes situational leadership into 4 quadrants based on that situation and based on the followers. And it kind of gives us a blueprint of how do you be an ideal leader in different situations. And just as a note, situational leadership is a big bucket, and there are a bunch of skills that kind of uphold this as well. So I wanted to think, like, can we quantify this? Like, is it possible to see if there's an actual impact to having skills like being a situational leader? And so I did a lot of analysis, and I wanted to highlight 2 studies that were particularly glaring, where we found significant positive correlations to both job satisfaction as well as employee performance and innovativeness in different types of firms, and they were all technology firms across the world, when their leaders were situational leaders. And again, these are correlations, not causations, and I want to make that really clear because there are probably confounding variables in all of these. But again, my goal of the study was to start thinking, can we reshape our understanding of other types of skills? And that things like employee performance and all that, and output and profitability are just one variable, where things like job satisfaction and innovation are also variables that matter. So now I want to move on to emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is something you guys have all heard about. And it turns out there's multiple models of emotional intelligence, and there's a lot of literature on this. So the one that I wanted to focus on was by Daniel Goleman. He created this mixed model of emotional intelligence, and it's kind of expressed well in this graph here. And it basically splits it up into 4 parts, where it posits that EI is a mixture of personal skills that are kind of, I guess, innate in a way, as well as our personal traits, as well as skills or abilities. And it's a combination of both of these things that makes someone a really competent leader. So lastly, I wanted to do the same thing I did with situational leadership, which is think about, can we quantify? And I came across a lot of studies that had a lot of different correlations, and I wanted to highlight one right here that was particularly interesting to me. We had 2 multiple regression models that focused on extrinsic factors, which is, let's take salary. And we have the usual demographics that determine salary, your age, your gender, your area of study, all of that. And then we also have emotional intelligence. And this was a measure of mixed emotional intelligence. And we saw that the strength of the model was pretty much the same with both these demographic factors as well as emotional intelligence. So it begs the question, are these models valid predictors? I would say yes, because across the research that I've found, the studies do agree that emotional intelligence does have a significant positive correlation. But also, it is just one part of determinant traits, so I'm not going to say it's a causation or even kind of like the most important skill of all time. So, but again, this point of this is to kind of just reshape our understanding of other types of skills. So now I kind of want to go into some broader implications of my research and some things that I wanted to talk about after I'd conducted a lot of this lit review. And the main thing is that as more tasks are given to technology, we need leaders to be able to distinguish themselves by being able to manage the people who use those tools. So especially with the development of AI and kind of having tasks be done for us, humans are still going to be here, humans are still going to exist, and it's really important for us to be able to kind of manage those people and be able to talk to people and be able to lead organizations, because AI isn't leading organizations, it's people who control the AI are leading the organizations. So having these skills are going to soon command, I mean they are already commanding a premium in the labor market and over technical skills. And obviously I talked about how the term soft skills is inherently derogatory. And also this is generalizable. It's not just in the corporate world, it's across various organizational environments, and I think it can be applicable to everyone here in this room. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Really great presentation. I guess I just had a question. So as like a fellow business student, I totally see how interpersonal skills are very important in the workplace. But I'm wondering what your thoughts are on extroverts versus introverts, because I've noticed that often extroverts are more rewarded for like speaking up and having better communication skills, and introverts at times are penalized and are seen as like, I don't know, less amicable. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that in relation to this.
Yeah, thanks, Suri. That's a really good question. I think it's really important to kind of identify that there are multiple types of people in different organizational environments. Not everyone is the same. And that's kind of why I'm basically shedding to light that there's more than one skill that's important. So if you're more of an introvert and your kind of strengths are really in technical skills and being superior in that, and you love that, then I think like that's obviously great. And then also if your strengths lie more in the communication and interpersonal skills, that's also good. But I understand that, especially in the corporate world, those kind of extroverts tend to get more rewarded, and that's kind of more like a systemic issue. So I would say my thoughts on that is that, I'm not sure like right now how to fix that. I don't know if like that's a really clear-cut answer, but it's important to just, I guess, understand that there are multiple types of people and multiple types of skills that are important across different organizations.
Hi, great job, Amit. You shared a lot of really interesting things in this presentation. I'm wondering if there's anything you were really surprised by in doing your research.
Yeah. So the one thing I was really surprised by, like across all of my research, was I wasn't really sure what I was going to find in terms of like actual statistics and correlations. I mean, I just highlighted a few here, but there are several studies that really agreed with those things, and I kind of went into it knowing that we've all heard anecdotally, like this isn't new at all, saying, oh, soft skills are important, like you need to be able to talk to people and all that stuff. But because it's been more of anecdotal and more informal, kind of just understanding, I had no idea what I was going to come across quantitatively. So I was very surprised by the actual kind of empirical facts that I found about this.
Really interesting job. So you started with a personal anecdote about your coursework at Questrom. And I wonder, this might be dangerous to ask, if you were in charge of the Questrom, what's the right word? The pathway, right, through Questrom, what was required, what courses are required, et cetera. What changes would you make based on this? Do you think there isn't enough of an emphasis on soft skills? Do you think there's having you do too much Excel and too much technical skills, and they instead should be doing more about emotional intelligence?
So it's a good question. Thank you. I think there are nuances to that point, because I mean, if you're a business school and you're trying to kind of either increase in rankings or have your students succeed in different types of environments or jobs, you're going to have to learn technical skills. I think I'm really glad that I learned a lot of technical skills in my degree, but I think that absolutely I would incorporate maybe some more coursework through each grade, especially in the later courses, in the later grades. There's no required classes for this type of work, and I think just incorporating more courses that not just kind of teach these skills, but work on building what you already have, and just raising an awareness that these are really important. But I would say like absolutely hard skills, technical skills, very, very important. And I just think more of a balance.